Hi, hello, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing a bookshelf scavenger hunt, and basically the final book in this bookshelf scavenger hunt will be the book that we read in this reading vlog. If you are new here, hi, I'm Carol, and in this channel we talk mostly about books. But I have here in my trusty notebook some questions because I wrote out some questions. Some questions are I think I might have created, or I just thought about them, and others they were inspired by other bookshelf scavenger hunts and I created it in my own order. If any of these questions seem similar, or if the order seems similar to any other bookshelf scavenger hunt you ever watched, it might be a coincidence, or it might just be because I was doing it from my own memory and I might have unconsciously got inspired by someone else, by something else that I saw. But overall, I try to do it as original as possible, or as do it in my own personal bookshelf scavenger. So we have 7 questions. Each question will give us a book, and then from that book, again, another question, another prompt, and until we get to the 7th question and the answer to the 7th question will be the book that you'll be reading for this video. The books that I'm going to pick will be all over my shelf. There will be the physical books to answer the prompts, but in order to pick the book that I will read, it can be either from my physical TBR or it can be from my Kindle TBR. And also I am wearing headphones because I know that for this video I need to move around, and I feel like the headphones, even though it might look weird when I'm filming it, I feel like it might be better for the audio because it can be a little bit more consistent. So let's start with the bookshelf scavenger hunt. The first question here on my notebook is 1. Pick a book with a pretty cover, and we have options. Ideally, I would like to pick one that I don't talk much about because that would be the fun part for this video, which is also kind of show books I don't talk about. So I'm going to pick A Journey to the Center of the Earth by Verne. This is a book I think I read 2 years ago. I think I might have talked about it in the channel a long time ago. But I like this book because I think the cover is pretty, because it looks old. It looks like an old book, and when I put it on my bookshelf, it looks like an old book. I actually have 3 other books by the same author in the same collection, and I just like that they look old school. So that's the answer to the first prompt. The second question is 2. Pick a book with a title with the same amount of letters as the name of the previous author. I think I'm going to go with the name that it is on the cover. This book is translated to Portuguese, so the name of the author is also translated to Portuguese. It's Júlio Verne. So let's count how many how many letters there are in the name on the cover, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 letters in the author's name, and a title with 10 letters. Happy Place? Happy Place has 10 letters. So the answer to the second prompt is Happy Place. Third question. 3. Pick a book with a title that starts with the last letter of the title of the last book. Happy Place ends with an E, so a book that starts with an E. So it took me a while to get a book that starts with an E, to find a book that started with an E, and I found some, but I thought maybe not to include them, only if I never found another book that starts with an E. But then I found I Who Had Never Known Men, and I have the Portuguese translation, which is Eu Que Nunca Conheci os Homens. And as you can tell, it starts with an E. So I haven't read anything. I haven't read this book yet. So hopefully I need to know about the plot, but it starts with an E. Fourth prompt. 4. Pick a book with the reverse amount of pages as the last book. Hopefully I don't get spoiled. But I'm going to try and cover the last page, just in case you know how to read Portuguese and you haven't read this book. But the last page has 188 pages, so 881 pages for the next book. almost. So I got the Two Musketeers. It has 788 pages, the version that I have. I don't think Jane Eyre has it. Does Jane Eyre has over 800 pages? I don't think so. No, there's like 600 pages edition. I know for a fact the Founder of Monte Cristo and War and Peace, they have over 1,000 pages. Maybe Bleak House. Bleak House has 794, so I need something even bigger. So maybe Prairie. I didn't want to use Prairie because I haven't read the book yet, but I remember when I first got it, when I looked, that it had around 800 pages. 804 pages, and then if we count the glossary, how many pages? 830. Maybe the other Prairie book. So A Day of Fallen Night, how many pages does this thing have? 846 pages and 868 with the glossary. I think this is going to be the closest one that I have, because I know the Covenant of Water has 700 pages. I was going to look at another book, but I'm going to go with A Day of Fallen Night. I think this is the closest I might get to 881 pages. Why is this number so difficult to say? Fifth prompt. Pick a book of the same genre as the last book, so fantasy. So we need another fantasy book. Let's go to fantasy, shall we? I was looking at the fantasy section, but in terms of physical books, I don't really have high fantasy, which is what I believe A Day of Fallen Night is. I have YA, I have more light fantasy. I don't have high fantasy, and for a moment I thought of picking a Prairie of the Orange Tree because I think of physical copies of books, that's the only other high fantasy I have. But I didn't want to, so I decided to go for another one, which I think it's not similar, but it is also a more high fantasy, but it is a classic, and it is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Also haven't read this one, so let's see if I need to know something for the plot. No, I forgot. I tried to not put anything about plots in these scavenger hunts, just in case I needed to pick any of my informative picks to go TBR. But question 6. Pick a book with a similar cover. So, The Hobbit. It's black, white title, some gold in it. It's a little bit of red, but it is main. And there are some mountains. So something with mountains, something black. Rouge has the same color scheme in terms of black with white and a little bit of red, and there's like this red thing in the middle. So not similar vibes, but kind of similar color schemes. Let's see if I find anything else. Let's see if I find something with a mountain. We have my copy of Othello, even though I don't know if this is like red or kind of more orangey. Which also there's some black, there's some white in the name. There is kind of like a sun or a bow on the front. Some mountains here, but I don't think it's the same vibe. I think for this prompt I'm going with Rouge by Mona Awad, just because it's also black with white and some red, and there's a red thing in the middle. And I think the mountains might have something to do with the Lord of the Rings, if I remember correctly, from like the 5 minutes of a movie from the Lord of the Rings that I watched. So, Rouge by Mona Awad, this book I have read. So let's see the last prompt, which is question 7. Pick a book with similar tropes / premise. So Rouge is a kind of a Snow White retelling that talks about a complex mother-daughter relationship. It talks about cult, and it's a commentary on the beauty industry and unlikable characters. So if you go back to I Who Had Never Known Men, you have cults, maybe a complex mother-daughter relationship. I don't know if it is a comment on the beauty industry though. Even though I know I won't get the same exact tropes as Rouge. Okay, so I scoured through my physical TBR and my Kindle TBR, and I found 2 books that might fit this prompt, but they are probably different. So we have I Who Had Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, and this is a dystopia that follows, apparently this, from what I know at least, because I haven't read this book yet, but I believe it follows a woman that she lived her whole life underneath a bunker, and she has never met men because in this bunker there were only women. So in some ways this book fits the code prompt, and I'm not sure about the mother-daughter relationship side of things, and I don't think there is a commentary on the beauty industry. On the other hand, we have Wayward by Emilia Hart, and this is a book that follows 3 generations of the same family, and they are they're witches, I believe, and we followed 3 generations of the same family, and I think this might fit the prompt in the complex mother-daughter relationship or in the mother-daughter relationship, because this book follows the many generations of women in this one family. So what do I want to read now? I think I'm going with Wayward by Emilia Hart, because this book follows multiple generations of women in this one family, and in which we follow this mother-daughter who they're kind of estranged, and then the daughter needs to go back. She needs to go and take care of her mother belongings, because her mother recently passed away, and then she ends up being involved in this kind of magical code stuff, kind of weird stuff going on. And in this book we do have a little bit of magic. This book, from the synopsis, from the blurb on the dust jacket, it has something to do with our current generation of this family. She inherited the mansion or the state she's living at, and that kind of fits in this rouge trope of losing a family member, kind of like of grief. So I think I'm going with Wayward. I'm going to read Wayward by Emilia Hart. I'll be back when I have a review. Hello, so I'm currently over halfway through reading Wayward by Emilia Hart. I think it's like, 70%, 75% through reading this book. So I can tell you a little bit about the story and also my current opinions about the book. So this jacket is kind of like, let's fix it. Ooh, better? I think it's better. But basically in Wayward we follow three family members. 3 different people, 3 women from the Wayward family. The Wayward family is a family that, as far as we are aware so far in the book, it's basically only women, and they are kind of witches. They are 99% certain that they are witchy. They're witches. And we follow 3 different perspectives in the book. We follow Alta in 1619. She is this 21-year-old woman that at the beginning of the book she's going to be trialed for witchcraft in their small village, small town in England. And then we have Violet, or Anne Violet, or just Violet, who is also this young woman. I think she's like 16 at the beginning of the book, and she still lives in this very same small village with her father and her brother, and her father is a viscount. And Violet, she's very curious about many things. She doesn't really feel welcome. She doesn't feel as if she necessarily fits in with her family, and she's always hearing these comments going on between the employees of her manor, because her father is a viscount, is from this very traditional family, and he married her mother even though his family didn't really approve. And allegedly her mother passed away during the birth of her brother, but she keeps hearing some comments about her mother or comparing her to her mother that makes her curious, and she wants to find out what happened to her mother, where she comes from, this sort of stuff. She's growing up, she's having new experiences, but also she's trying to find out more about her mother. And then we have Kate, who is Graham's, Violet's brother's granddaughter, or Violet's great niece, and this POV takes place probably like late 2010s, like in the 2010s, probably. In the 21st century. Violet, by the way, I forgot to say, but Violet, her POV takes place during the Second World War, so the 1940s. And then we have Kate, whose POV takes place in the 21st century, and the story starts with Kate running away from her abusive partner, Simon, and she moves back to also the small town. It's a very small village in the English countryside because she inherited Violet's cottage. She never really she wasn't close to Violet. She never really met Violet. She saw her once in her life, but then she inherited the cottage, and now she moved there, and she's kind of hiding at the beginning of the book from her abusive partner in this cottage in the countryside of the English countryside, this very small village where the Waywards come from. And she's also then, I can't talk much without giving spoilers about what is going on, but she's also will try to kind of figure out who is the Waywards, because she isn't familiar with them. Her father passed away when she was a young child. Her mother wasn't close with her father's family, and she doesn't really know much about this side of the family. She didn't really know Violet. So basically, in Wayward, we are following these 3 generations of women from the Wayward family, and they're all kind of witchy, and there are some common threads that I already saw between the point of views, between the stories of these women, and I'm just curious about how these threads will become this giant like knot or something, because there are threads, but I feel like there will be more between the characters, more things linking up these 3 point of views. And overall, I'm really liking this book. I really like the writing style of the book. It's not necessarily super flowery. It's also not necessarily like super dry. And I'm really enjoying the writing style and the way the story is being told. I'm curious to see what will go on, but also I still not 100% aware about why we are getting this very specific 3 different point of views of these 3 different women. I think I'm about to find out what is the thing that really links them together. Like Violet and Kate, their relationship is very obvious, but with Alta, I'm curious about how Alta really fits into the point of view of Violet and Kate. I have a suspicion about how they will 100% link up together. Also, the cover of the book now makes a lot more sense, and overall, I'm really enjoying this book. But that being said, if you haven't read this book yet and you are curious about it, you definitely need to check the trigger warnings for this book, because as I said, Kate was in an abusive relationship. This book has on-page depictions of SA, so you definitely need to check the trigger warnings before going to this book. But overall, I'm having a really nice experience, and I'm going to finish reading and see what is the conclusion of the story, because I feel that I stopped right at the point where things are already kind of getting very plotty, very dramatic, but I feel like things are going to get even more dramatic. The plot will start plotting even more. Also, another thing before I finish this clip that I have to say is that if you're going to this book thinking this is fantasy because of the witchy element, this book is not exactly fantasy. It's way more on the magical realism side, so there is this fantastical element, but it isn't like fantasy. It's way more magical realism. So I'm going to stop recording this clip now, and I'm going to finish reading Wayward because I'm curious about what will happen. I will be back when I finish reading this book and I have my final thoughts on it. Hello! So I finished reading Wayward by Emilia Hart, and I really like the ending. And the ending I really like. One of my favorite parts of the book was actually the ending, especially because we got to know a little bit better about Violet. So as I said previously, Wayward follows 3 women from the same family. We follow Alta, we follow Violet and Kate. My least favorite point of view in this book was Kate. In part because we are still on the start of her character arc, she's still figuring out things. And then we have Alta, who is a really interesting character, and I liked reading her POV and finding out things and finding out things with Alta and seeing what Alta did, what Alta actually did in her point of view. That was really interesting. But Violet, she's the best character. Violet and Graham, they are the best characters in this book. They are my favorite characters in this book. Just iconic. She does something in this book. She does something that is just, in my opinion, iconic behavior. But overall, I sound kind of positive talking about Wayward, but Wayward, the ending is very hopeful, but the book itself, it's not very positive. Actually, you need to check the trigger warnings for this book, because this book is full of evil men being cruel to women. You have witch trials. Some of the trigger warnings you need to be very much aware before going to this book. So this book talks about sexual violence, it talks about stillbirth, abortion, mutilation, domestic violence. This book in general is just full of evil men being cruel with women. That's the whole thing about this book. That's the main thing about this book, more than witchcraft and the fact that they're kind of witchy and they can control the earth because they're witchy. Evil men being cruel with women. That's this book. But overall, I really liked this book. I liked the writing style. I liked the way the story was told. I liked reading this book, even though it was quite dark and sad. But I love Violet and Graham, the best characters in this book. So I finished reading Wayward. I don't have much more to say about this book. It was great, and now the cover also makes way more sense after you finish reading the book. But that's it for this video. If you liked it, please consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any other questions you think I might add or I need to change on the bookshelf scavenger hunt, please let me know in the comment section, and I hope to see you with another video very soon. Bye!